When a horrific murder takes place, particularly in a close-knit community, the impact is felt for decades to come. But, as well as the pain felt by the victim's family, there is also the physical legacy of their houses and gardens which are linked to these heinous crimes. More often than not, houses connected to notorious killings are demolished in a bid to destroy the memories which will forever be associated with that site. The practice is largely to stop ghoulish souvenir hunters plundering the house and gardens for relics of the notorious crimes. But there is also the reality that most people just do not want to live in a house with such sinister connotations. In today's video we will look at 5 haunting, creepy and disturbing locations of infamous crimes which still exist to this day. 112 Ocean Avenue, Amityville, Long Island, New York. In the early morning hours of November the 13th, 1974, one Amityville house in Long Island, New York became more than a mere suburban home. Instead, it became a ghastly crime scene as Ronald Defoe Jr. skulked the halls with a rifle and killed his parents and 4 siblings after they slept. He later claimed that there were voices in his head urging him to kill them, and some believe to this day that he was indeed hearing those evil spirits that resided within the so-called Amityville Horror House. But it wasn't until after Louise's family moved into the house in December of 1975 that the purported haunting of the Amityville Horror House allegedly set in. George and Kathy Lutz believed their purchase of the 4,000 square foot house at $80,000 was a complete steal, but moved out after just 28 days after terrifying incidents allegedly forced them to flee. From green slime purportedly oozing from the walls and eyes peering into the house from outside, to foul odours and Kathy allegedly floating in her bed, it was a rather distinguishing month. George claimed that he woke up at 3:15 AM every night, the exact time of the death of the Defoe family members. Despite the widely publicised 1974 killings, numerous families have since moved in and out of the house, now listed as 108 Ocean Avenue. Meanwhile, the purportedly paranormal occurrences that happened here have spawned a slew of books and films like the Amityville Horror, which have kept tourists flocking to the house ever since and still to this day. 2825 Saratoga Trail, Frederick, Colorado. Chris Watts, who was found guilty of murdering his pregnant wife, Shannon Watts, and his 2 daughters, Belle and Celeste, on August 12, 2018. Watts killed Shannon after she came home from a business trip to Arizona in 2018. He strangled her and then put her body and their 2 daughters in his truck and drove to an isolated oil storage tank where he worked. He buried his wife in a shallow grave and then smothered his 2 daughters and placed their bodies inside the oil storage tanks. For 2 days, Watts claimed that he had nothing to do with his family's disappearance and even went on television to plead for them to come home. After his arrest, he initially claimed that Shannon had killed the girls after he had told her he wanted a separation, and then he had strangled her in anger. At his trial, he pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty, which has since been abolished in Colorado. He is now serving 5 life sentences plus 48 years in prison without the possibility of parole at Dodge Correctional Institution in Waupun, Wisconsin. The house which the crimes took place in was repossessed following Watts defaulting on his mortgage while in prison. It was put up for auction in 2019 with a guide price of $600,000. However, there was no bids made for the house and it remains abandoned and empty to this day. It is also completely blurred out when viewed on Google Maps Street View. (749 15th Street, Boulder, Colorado). JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was an American child beauty queen who was killed at the age of 6 in her family's home in Boulder, Colorado. A long handwritten ransom note was found in the home. Her father, John, found the girl's body in the basement of their house after 7 hours after she had reportedly disappeared. She had sustained a broken skull from a blow to the head and had been strangled, and a garrote was found tied around her neck. The autopsy report stated that JonBenet's official cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation, and her death was ruled as a homicide. The case generated worldwide public and media interest, in part because her mother, Patsy Ramsey, a former beauty queen herself, had entered JonBenet into a series of child beauty pageants. The crime is still to this day considered a cold case and remains an open investigation with the Boulder Police Department. However, a Colorado grand jury voted in 1999 to indict JonBenet's parents. The indictment cited 2 counts each of child abuse and said the parents did unlawfully, knowingly, recklessly and feloniously permit a child to be unreasonably placed in a situation that posed a threat of injury to the child's life or health, which in itself resulted in the death of JonBenet Ramsey, a child under the age of 16. Among the experts who testified in the case were DNA specialist Gary Schneck and forensic expert Henry Lee. On October 13, 1999, Alex Hunter, who was the district attorney at the time, refused to sign the indictment, saying that the evidence was insufficient for prosecution. In 2002, the statute of limitations on the grand jury's charges expired. This means that the Ramseys, if guilty of any involvement, can no longer be charged for the crime. The Boulder, Colorado home of JonBenet Ramsey 1996 murder has sat vacant for many years following the young girl's death. However, Timothy and Carrie Schweller Milner bought it in 2004 and listed the home at around $2 million multiple times, but received no offer for the property. They still own the home to this day, which is still sat vacant, leaving a haunting reminder of the now infamous crime. 875 South Bundy Drive, Brentwood, Los Angeles. On the night of June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Golden were murdered in Brown's home located at 875 South Bundy Drive in Brentwood, Los Angeles. It was strongly suspected that Brown's ex-husband, Owenthal James Simpson, was responsible for the murders. On the same night, O.J. Simpson will leave LA for Chicago to play golf with representatives from Hertz, for who O.J. was a spokesperson. Statements given by the limousine driver who dropped O.J. off at the airport sparked even more suspicions of the ex-NFL star. He stated that Simpson seemed agitated the night of the murders and complained it was very hot keeping the windows down. This was despite it being a rather cold night. There was also multiple witnesses who saw Simpson dumping suspicious items in an airport bin. This is how it is believed the murder weapon, shoes and clothing that Simpson wore during the murder were disposed of. A broken glass, a note with a telephone number on it, and bedsheets with blood on them were all recovered from Simpson's room at the O'Hare Plaza Hotel. Following further investigations, a bloody glove was found at Simpson's property, which led to the detectives recommending Simpson be charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder when final DNA tests came back a match to O.J. at the crime scene. Robert Shapiro, Simpson's lawyer for this case, informed the police Simpson would hand himself in by noon, but he failed to do so. At 1:50 p.m, Simpson was declared a fugitive and a warrant was issued for his arrest. At 6:45 p.m. on the 17th of June, following many sightings of Simpson, the now famous televised chase of Simpson's white Bronco truck began, lasting until 8:50 p.m. when Simpson finally surrendered. Following a very publicised trial, Simpson was very controversially acquitted of all charges on October the 7th and released without any charge. The house which the murders were committed in still stands to this day and has been sold several times. To this day, the house remains a popular stop for tourists wanting to see the infamous location. 232nd Street, Fall River, Massachusetts. In 1892, a grisly crime rocked the quiet town of Fall River, Massachusetts. Andrew Borden and his wife Abby had been found brutally murdered, bludgeoned to death by an axe. While police didn't know who to blame at first, suspicion soon fell on Andrew's 32-year-old daughter, Lizzie Borden. A spinster and Sunday school teacher from a well-off family, Lizzie Borden seemed like the last person capable of committing such a horrific crime. But cops struggled to find any other suspects in the murder case. Ultimately, the young woman never admitted to committing the murders. Andrew Borden was first found slumped on a sofa by Lizzie Borden herself, whose screams attracted a crowd outside of the home. Abby Borden was later found upstairs slumped over in a pool of her own blood. It was later determined that Abby Borden had been struck 19 times with a hatchet, and Andrew had been hit 11 times with a similar weapon. Lizzie's story changed multiple times throughout the investigations, which led to her being arrested and jailed on the 11th of August 1892. On June 19, 1893, Lizzie was found not guilty of all charges. Following the trial, Borden lived in a mansion known as Maplecroft, also in Fall River, according to the Herald News. The Maplecroft mansion in which the murders took place has been listed for sale more than once. In 2018, Maplecroft was sold to the owners of the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast and Museum. The house itself is now a hotel and museum dedicated to the murders. They also offer ghost tours of the mansion, as it is said to still be haunted by the Bordens themselves. That's the video, everyone. So I hope you've enjoyed going over the more darker aspects of our world. Don't forget to punch the like button, leave a comment down below, and of course subscribe if you're new to the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, which are always down below. And last thing to say, this has been Stargazer Entertainment, and I shall see you in the next video.